Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washut as we here for your next hour, get you ready for this shortened week. Friday night football comes to Lincoln to kick off Big Ten Conference play, the 400th consecutive sellout here. It's going to be a great, great night again. 3 night games in a row for Memorial Stadium. Hasn't happened since 2008. But before we get into opening headlines, Husker Online Show brought to you by StayHome.Care. Your home, our care. Get accessible and personalized in-person care in the comfort of your home, whether it's helping with daily tasks like cleaning, laundry, and meal preparation, providing companionship, offering medication reminders, or assisting with personal care and errands. We're here to make life easier, serving Lincoln, Omaha, and all of Nebraska. That's StayHome.Care. Thank you for being the title sponsor here of the Husker Online Show, as we've heard great response from the folks at StayHome.Care, and we appreciate their support of our show. Let's move it in, guys. Opening headlines. Big one this week. Sellout number 400, Friday night stage. I think when this game was first on the calendar, like, man, Illinois, Nebraska, it's on a Friday night again. I believe this is the third time in the series of Friday night football that these two teams have played on a Friday night. But all of a sudden, the stakes are much, much higher for this game. Illinois comes in ranked in the AP poll. There has not been a ranked game in the Memorial Stadium since 2014, Minnesota, Nebraska. The Gophers were 25th in the playoff poll.
Oh, in the playoff poll. That's what got me.
That's I consider that the official poll.
Oh, I was looking at the media guide. I was looking at the media guide, and now it shows that Minnesota wasn't ranked because they go by the AP poll.
I feel like when the playoff poll comes into play, that should be the poll. But the playoff poll doesn't start till later in the year. But yeah, if you're going off the AP poll, UCLA in 2013 was the last ranked on rank game.
Yeah.
But then you get Friday night game here, you get the 400 sellout, and we've learned these night games, they're hot tickets. I mean, that game on Saturday against Northern Iowa, wow.
Yeah, it was a great atmosphere. It sounds weird, isn't it, saying that? But you got to. It's in the context of the Riley era and the Frost era, where the home games, the atmosphere wasn't always great. But these first 2 home games, oh God, yes, they were great. Northern Iowa was it's a lot of this is the students.
Big time.
Big tip of the cap to the student section, which is there early. It's packed. And I think that those students must really have bought into this Rhule team, this Rhule era. So it's great.
Well, winning. I mean, it's easy to get behind whatever's happening when you're winning games. It's been a long time since Nebraska's had a start like this, as we all know. Basically, every win from here on out is go back to 2016 since the last time it happened. So that's a big part of fueling this. But the fact that they're getting night games, they had the marquee game against Colorado that had the nation watching on it. And the fact that Nebraska's not just winning, but looking really good in the process, too. There's a lot to like and a lot of reason that optimism is fueled more than it has been in a long time around here.
You want to watch Dylan Raiola run the offense.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to get up. You want to see the throws that he makes, the way he runs this. We've watched a lot of bad offensive football, a lot of turnover football, probably
a lot of false starts.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen a lot of false starts,
assignment errors, penalties,
fumbles.
We've seen a lot of damn false starts. Is what we've seen. I mean, we have,
but it's clean football. It's executed at a high level.
Right. We need to give that voice right now, more voice. It is sound. It's easy. Here's what happens when it's not in this conversation. When it's not sound, we yell about it. When it is sound, we just overlook it. But let's not overlook it. I mean, this is a sound football team.
They did have 12 penalties against Colorado. But that was weird.
That was weird. And I thought that was the officials throwing flags that were unnecessary.
Just to throw flags.
Yeah. I mean, I talked to an official who saw that game, and he said it was sort of ridiculous how many flags were thrown that didn't need to be thrown.
Agreed.
So I throw that out. No, this is a sound football team. They play sound football.
Back to the tickets for this game, you can't, at least right now as a show taping early in the week, you can't even get in the stadium for under $100 right now.
Really?
Good. That is the cheapest get in, and that's upper nosebleed north-south end zone.
Yeah, now I'm sitting here saying good, and I'm sure that sounds terrible to people because I don't have to pay. But what I mean is
there's a demand for the product.
There's a demand for the product, and that's good. That's good.
And the ticket market really is the tell of that, because when they're not good, it was kind of embarrassing how cheap you could get into the games.
Cheap, you could get in for free. People were leaving tickets on the sidewalk.
Yeah, remember we were wondering if they were going to continue the sellout streak.
Right.
They were like scrambling at the last minute to try to sell the remaining tickets, thousands of remaining tickets. That doesn't seem to be much of an issue right now.
I am not exaggerating, guys. They were people leaving tickets on the sidewalk.
Well, these night games, I think, add another element. 3 in a row, especially the younger crowd, they want to be a part of that environment.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun.
I mean, the light show and the drones and everything. Look, you're not going to want to miss this one. I don't know what they have in store, but I don't want to miss it. Because I do think with sellout 400, guys, this is a significant night. I mean, you think about how long it takes to get 200 sellouts. 1994 was the 200 sellout.
Beat Colorado 24-7. The first milestone 100, they beat, I think, Penn State. They've never lost on a milestone.
And then 300, it was Bo Pelini in 09, and I believe that was against a Louisiana team.
I think so. Louisiana Tech, maybe.
Louisiana. They wore throwbacks.
Hello. But they won on 100, they won on 200, they won on 300. So they've never lost a big milestone game.
Louisiana Lafayette.
My bad on Tech.
We were in the right state.
You had the right state.
My bad though on that. I hate getting that stuff wrong. So it was interesting too. Rhule wasn't caught up in it. He said, my job is to win the game, not get caught up in nostalgia.
Yeah. And he's
true.
right.
Yeah.
He's right. The nostalgia stuff's for us and the fans.
Yeah.
Like, to sit back and think about it. Like, he's got a very important game on his hands on a short week, and he's got some things to address. And I think that's probably the best thing about, like, as Sean mentioned, when we first announced it was going to be a Friday game, it's like, oh man, like, the high school football community was upset, and first Friday, non-Black Friday game in a long time around here.
Ever. Other than the Thursday Rice game after 9/11.
Right. So, like, there was some kind of angst about that initially, but I think now when you look at it, that's really working in Nebraska's favor. For one, the fact that it's at home is huge. Then you add in the 400 sellout. Then you add in the night game. Then you add in the national televised audience. And the fact that they didn't play all that well. I mean, they won 34-3, but like in their minds, they didn't play up to their standard, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. So they're fueled. And now they have a top 25 matchup.
Wow, Rob.
On this stage. Like, I think the stars are aligning pretty well this week.
Good call. Good call.
Thanks. You're welcome.
It's at 7 o'clock too, which, if it was at 6, it'd be harder for some folks. I think having it a little bit later even helps more people get situated getting down here. Credit to LPS. They are not having one football game in the city of Lincoln on Friday. LPS has moved all of their schedule to Thursday. So there's a double header at Lincoln Northwest. There's a double header at Seacrest and one game at Beach North Lincoln High. So you're not going to have the distraction of high school football going on in the city. They cleared the schedule for this game, and they should.
And I've heard at least one just anecdotal evidence that like the professors here are told, don't worry, don't park in your spot because people are going to be tailgating. Don't worry about coming.
The beauty of COVID is it did teach people how to do remote learning.
Yes.
And I'm sure they can figure out a way to do remote class. I'm guessing the students will be just fine.
Yeah. I mean, if they cancel it for volleyball day in Nebraska, like, they've done it. Like, they know the drill at this point.
It's going to be a wound up crowd. It really does, Rob. You really went through it well. It works in Nebraska's favor in a big way. Add 6 points, I'd say.
That's big reason why the line is what it is right now. It's anywhere from 8.5 to 10.
11 a.m. game on a Saturday or 7 p.m. on a Friday. I'm taking the 7 p.m. on the Friday.
Oh, God.
Every day of the week.
And the fact that 400 sellout in this matchup gets to be showcased on the national stage like that. If it was an 11 a.m. kick, it would be an also ran on the slate of games. Even if it is a top 25 matchup, like, it wouldn't have the platform that it's going to have this week.
All right, when we come back, we're going to get more into the offensive storylines here heading into the game, including Nebraska will be without another key piece to their offensive line for the second game in a row. That's next. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, brought to you by StayHome.Care. They're proud to announce they've received the prestigious Top Home Healthcare Service Award for the second year in a row, reaffirming its commitment to providing unparalleled care and support to individuals in the comfort of their own home. Head to StayHome.Care to learn more. That's .care, not .com. And check them out at StayHome.Care or call 402-205-2233. Thank you to StayHome.Care for sponsoring us on the Husker Online Show. We're also brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes you just need someone to talk to. Life gets at you. You got a lot going on with your family, your personal life, and there's no better way through that than therapy. And the BetterHelp is an easy way to do it at your home, online, on your time schedule. Check them out at BetterHelp.com. Just fill out the brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. It's entirely online. Give them a try. That's BetterHelp. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Go to BetterHelp.com/Husker today, and you'll get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/Husker. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring us on the Husker Online Show. Okay, guys, let's get into the main headline of the week. I want to start with the offensive line. Micah Mazuka will be out for a second game in a row. Matt Rhule confirmed that Monday. It is a head coach's decision. What do you make of this? And Henry Latosky will get the start again, and he played pretty well. I still think it's a drop-off. Mazuka is one of their best guys, if not their best guy, but they're going into Big Ten play without maybe their best offensive lineman.
Right. What to make of it? I mean, I hate to speculate. Coach's decision. I mean, you just go by what Matt Rhule said. He's got to work through some stuff. That's what Rhule said. He's got to work through some stuff. He left open, he kind of left open the possibility of him returning next week for Purdue. There might be a drop-off with Latosky. Latosky started his 5th game of his career against Northern Iowa. And I think he played – I looked at the Pro Football Focus grades. He graded pretty well. The offensive line was outstanding against UNI. This is an offensive line that's only allowed 1 sack all year. It's allowed 1 quarterback. No, stop. They have not allowed a sack.
Because the sack was Dylan's fault.
Right. So they have not been credited with an allowed
Just some hurries.
sack.
They've allowed 1 QB hit. The only hurry last week was when Dylan Raiola avoided what was possibly going to be almost a blindside type hit, and he was able to avoid it by stepping up.
Curiously, I thought it was curious. Rhule was asked about the offensive line in his Monday press conference and just said, we really don't know about those guys until the Big Ten play starts. I thought there would be some glowing praise, and there wasn't. He said, we'll find out about those guys in the Big Ten.
He's not wrong either. They've had some challenges, like Westmoreland at UTEP was an NFL level edge. Colorado had some bigger guys
Colorado
on their
came back and
interior.
held Colorado State to 9.
Yeah. So, they had some size there, but the Big Ten's a different animal. That's what the conference is known for. It's what it's branded for, is play in the trenches. Their play on the line of scrimmage on both sides is different than most anywhere else, maybe not including the SEC. So that, I think, is more what he's talking about. Not as much a knock on their opponents, what they played there, but just how much both of those lines elevate in league play.
With that said, though, when you have a quarterback like Dylan Raiola, we've seen this for the first 3 weeks, everything looks better. The throws are on time. He plays the pocket properly. He throws it away. He doesn't fumble it. All the things that have plagued Nebraska the previous few years, we're not seeing those early on with a true freshman, which I think is as big of the story as anything with him, that he was going to have a 300-yard night if Jalen Lloyd catches that 60-some-yard pass.
Underthrew it, though. He underthrew it.
It was a 50-50 ball, though. It was in both players' hands.
Yeah, Dylan said himself he underthrew it. But you're right. It was catchable. Rhule says some interesting stuff. Did you notice at the end of his Saturday night press conference, he just he talks fast, so you really got to listen. But he said that with Dylan, it's an NFL conversation because he throws the ball to a spot and expects the receiver to be there. That's NFL. That's what happens in the NFL. You throw the ball to a spot, and the receivers expected to be there. I can go back to listening to Frost. Well, actually, Frost showed me film. It was one of the rare times I was in his office, and he was telling me about some of their receivers that are struggling, and he could show you film of his quarterback throwing it to a spot and his receiver not being there, couldn't get there, didn't have the speed,
run, get off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, just whatever. They just weren't there. He goes, "This is the problem we're having." So Dylan throws it to a spot and expects those guys to be there.
In my opinion, this is going to be the most difficult defense Dylan Raiola has faced yet this season. And a lot of that has to do with Illinois' personnel. I mean, they're an opportunistic defense that forces a ton of turnovers, but schematically and the way that they disguise things at the line of scrimmage pre-snap, Matt Rhule talked about that on Monday a lot, that for a young quarterback, that can be extremely difficult. And the way that they bait you into mistakes, like they'll show man and then drop to cover 2.
Right.
They'll show a press man and then drop into another zone. Like those types of things can cause a lot of just, you think what's coming and then it's not there and then you panic. So this is where how Dylan Raiola's readiness is really going to be tested, because he's shown so much so far, but this is going to be a different test.
And he's been very good at pre-snap reading, diagnosing, and I think the helmet headsets help those quarterbacks out a lot now too.
Yeah, no doubt.
But the question too is, can they run the ball at a level to complement what they've done in the throwing game? And how much tighter will the playing rotations be on offense between the running backs and the receivers? I would expect it's going to size down to 6 receivers, starting 3. And then, will Carter Nelson get in that spot? We know Jalen Lloyd's going to be in that group. Alex Bullock maybe will be in that group to an extent. But will a guy like Carter Nelson or somebody else, kind of Corey Barney's going to be in that group?
Yeah, okay. You figure it out. I mean,
but
the starting group is Nayor, Banks, and
Bonner. And then Barney's kind of a starter.
Barney's got to play. And then after that, who is it?
Jalen
Lloyd's got to play. Okay, now you're at 5. You just got one more.
At that point, do you package in Carter Nelson again?
I do.
And does Alex Bullock play a role still? Like, that's probably what they're looking at. And then at running back, Ramir and Dowdell, but has Emmett Johnson done enough to maybe earn more opportunity?
It looks like
those are your 3.
Yeah. Now, how do you do it though? Do you hammer away with Dowdell early and then have Johnson as your closer and work Ramir in on usually passing downs?
Third downs.
Yeah, third downs. If you look at the Pro Football Focus, it was heavily tilted on Ramir toward passing downs.
Having a fresh-legged Emmett Johnson late in the game is a huge advantage because he runs so hard.
That's it. He is real. And any of those coaches, former coaches, current coaches on this staff will say his just level of aggression so high. He loves football, and he runs it like that. I do like that Dowdell early, Johnson late. I don't mind that. I don't mind it.
A little 2-hit combo and then throw in the haymaker with Johnson.
Yeah.
Emmett.
And then the Heinrich.
That's what I like. That's what I like.
Was the Heinrich Harburg wrinkle just that, something to kind of throw off Illinois and make them prepare for it and spend time on it? Or will that be a part of the offense? I get this. I lean more towards it was just kind of a wrinkle.
Well, think about it in the context of what we just established, how hard it is to pare down the receiver. So now you're throwing another guy in that conversation
on a short week.
Because I would say they haven't had a lot of success on the Heinrich Harburg plays. Like
he caught a pass.
His catch looked good.
Yeah, I'm saying the runs.
Yeah.
Like the Wildcat, because it's so predictable what's coming that
it's predictable.
It hasn't really popped a run like you'd want it to.
Maybe you put him in the Wildcat, have him step 2 steps forward, pass it.
Jump pass, throw pass. I mean, something, because I think the running is almost so predictable, you know what you're doing.
Illinois, thank you if you're listening. Be ready.
You're welcome. Plan accordingly.
When we come back, we'll hit on the defensive storylines heading into Illinois. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. The Husker Online Show brought to you by StayHome.Care. Sometimes you just don't have all the time that you want to help people in need, especially loved ones, family members. It could be as simple as picking up prescriptions, helping somebody getting to a doctor appointment, helping with household chores that a loved one might need assistance with. StayHome.Care has you covered in all of these areas. Check them out at StayHome.Care. They are the proud title sponsor of the Husker Online Show. We're also brought to you by Ellerbrock-Norris. They've been helping protect Nebraska business owners in their purpose for over 120 years with risk management solutions built for local businesses. Ellerbrock-Norris partners with you on commercial insurance, group benefits, business exit planning, safety, and more. Start thinking long-term with your business and create a risk management strategy to protect it. Hoping you retire in the next 10 years and sell the business to family, key employees, or a friendly competitor? Talk to Ellerbrock. Ellerbrock is helping you protect your purpose, whether it's your business and the employees in it, your life outside of work, or your future retirement goals. Head to ellerbrocknorris.com/HuskerOnline today to get your free risk evaluation. That's Ellerbrock-Norris, HuskerOnline. Thank you to Ellerbrock-Norris for sponsoring us on the Husker Online show. Okay, guys, I want to get into the defense because this will be a good test. I mean, Nebraska has been tested in a lot of different ways, between what UTEP did with a lot of junk formations, 5 receivers to one side, to what Colorado did, which,
had downfield, Sean.
Elite NFL players at quarterback and receiver, to what Northern Iowa did, which is kind of a poor man's Big Ten look. And now they're going to see probably more of what Northern Iowa showed when you look at the way Illinois wants to attack Nebraska.
Yeah, Mark Farley would not appreciate you describing UNI as a poor man's Big Ten team, Sean.
Well, they have a bunch of players that didn't get Big Ten recruiting offers.
Just going off of Farley's press conference where he was a little surly about the suggestion that they couldn't hang with Nebraska.
Oh, he was crusty.
Right. No, you're right. You nailed it. Interestingly, just as an aside, Colorado against Colorado State went to a quick game, which they should have done against Nebraska, I thought. They threw it downfield against Nebraska. Against Colorado State, quick game. Made sense. I don't know why they didn't go to that
when they can't run the ball.
Right, exactly. Anyway, so how will Nebraska's defense, will they be ready for this? Yes, but I would think so, although they did get shoved around a little bit against UNI. UNI's offensive line was veteran and got after Nebraska.
Which was surprising because the defensive line and that defensive front seven is the strength of Nebraska's entire team.
Right.
And so that's the one thing that you'd expect. If any area was going to dominate, it was going to be that one. And it just wasn't quite there. And I thought Matt Rhule made a good point.
He did
on Monday about the 3 keys to winning. There's the physical side, the mental side, and the emotional side. And they had 2 of the 3. They were physically ready. They were mentally ready. Emotionally, which is what we talked about going into the week, coming off that Colorado game, just what a circus that whole environment was. To then come back and do it again against an FCS opponent and you're non-con, it was one of those games where they just probably kind of took it for granted a little bit. And I think that's probably when they talk about not playing to their standard. Again, the stats are still really good. They only gave up 3 points. They forced turnovers. They did the things that they needed to do, but it just wasn't at that level that we had seen in the first 2 weeks.
Nebraska played the run against Northern Iowa primarily with a 5 and a 6-man box. It was not like Tony White was bringing exotic fronts to shut down the run. I think they could have been much more aggressive. Jamari Butler was out. He'll be back this week. Mekhi Bayer was out for the first half. I do think there's a drop-off of Stephon Thompson and Mekhi Butler. So you take out a really good defensive lineman, NFL-level player, and then a very good linebacker, and then you're not really playing an aggressive, 7-8-man attack to stop the run. Northern Iowa was winning the numbers game and getting yardage.
Yeah, and it wasn't like they were gouging Nebraska. What did they finish? 3.6 yards a carry, which is not horrible, but it's not like they were killing.
They were knifing them up, though, for about 4 yards a pop, and that's what they were trying to do.
It was the first down yardage that jumped out to me. The way they were staying on schedule and being able to operate in second and short, second medium, like that was the difference and the reason why they were so successful between the 20s.
Yeah, you're right, though. Rhule made that very good point. And he said, Robin, to add what you said, is that's why you see teams every Saturday get upset. There's upsets. That's one of the things that leads to upsets. You're just not at your emotional peak every week. It's hard. You're not. I'm not. It's hard to do that every week.
And Nebraska still won 34-3. I mean, it was interesting to hear Mark Farley. I mean, he really still felt like they could have had a better chance to win that game and played with Nebraska. They got beat by 31 points.
Yeah, he was a little off base, I thought.
Yeah, he got this hammered in the comments by Husker fans. I mean, it was just kind of like, Coach, you lost 34-3.
Right, it's 34-3. You weren't really in the game, Mark. I mean, it was 21-3 at half. Now, they were driving to start the second half, and that's where Nebraska got its turnover. Hartzog made a great catch on a ball that was overthrown. Now, if they get to 21-10, you're still not really worried. Nebraska's still in total control. But that would have been 21-10. So maybe that's where he's coming from.
I mean, they tried to slow it down instead of making
slowed it down.
A racetrack. They were trying to make it a go-kart race. It's a slow car race. I mean, they were just trying to really limit the possessions. I mean, Nebraska only had 4 possessions in the first half.
Yeah,
4.
That's right.
And you got to assume that Illinois saw that, and they're going to try to replicate that.
Well, that's what Bielema does.
It's a good formula. I mean, yeah, it fits right into what they want to do.
That's what Bielema does.
The issue, though, is for that to happen, Illinois got to get a whole lot better running the football. That's been probably their weakest point on offense right now. They're just not a very consistent running game right now.
You know what's interesting, though? They will show a running back. I think his name is McCray. that's 6'1", 235. So it'll look like Northern Iowa.
And Luke Altmaier,
it'll look like Northern
Luke
Iowa.
Altmaier's as good or better than the Northern Iowa quarterback.
And Altmaier is a second-year starter now. He's a veteran. He's slippery. He'll move in the pocket. He is probably a little like Aiden Dunn.
And they've struggled against those mobile QBs.
Yeah.
Nebraska has.
Now, what Bielema does is smart. And now I'm not going to do this soapbox thing, but look at their receivers. Pat Bryant is their best receiver from Jacksonville, Florida kid, 6'3", 200. 6'3", 200. Their second best receiver, 6'1", 200. They send big players out there. That's what you do in the Big Ten.
I'm not worried about Tommy Hill in that regard. I'm maybe a little
Not
more
really.
concerned about the other side, because when teams have had success on Nebraska through the air, they've gone after Malcolm Hartzog, and then Buford's kind of an undersized corner as well. So that's going to be the matchup, because especially with the amount of attention Nebraska's going to have to dedicate to the box and slowing down that run game, there's going to be one-on-one matchups to be had for Illinois on the perimeter.
I forgot about that game last year, like how, Nebraska had complete control late and how they were fumbling it on
it over a bunch of times.
Like on those final possessions when it was like basically over. It was a weird feeling because they won, but Anthony Grant, I believe, had a fumble, or Harburg had a fumble. There were some late turnovers.
Yeah, they had 3 turnovers.
It was a huge win. That's what I remember about it.
It was a huge win, but at the end, like, they weren't able to kind of like plant their flag all the way and finish it.
Right.
So,
but remember that's the game that followed Michigan. And that's the game where they had the big Sunday practice.
Oh, and the goal line stand last year.
The goal line stand where Riley Van Poppel made the big stop. I was incredulous. I couldn't believe it was Van Poppel.
And then he won't be playing now, probably.
Got a red shirt.
Up to 4 games.
Yeah, he's got 2 more games left. But the plan is to redshirt him the same way they did Kai Wallen last week.
And the same way they're doing with Malachi Coleman. It's interesting. That's a fascinating conversation. You know what I like about it? It feels like in the past there wasn't really a plan. It was always sort of indefinite. With Rhule, it seems like there's always a plan. Like, and he's very upfront about it. No, yeah, we're gonna redshirt.
Yeah, previous head coaches, you'd ask them these kinds of questions, not just Frost, even Riley, and they wouldn't even know. You just got that sense.
Yeah, that's the sense you got. Yeah. This guy Rhule knows. He has a plan. It's like he has this vision of the future, and that's what you want from the leader of a program. That's what you want.
All right, when we come back, Abby Barmore will join us next for the mailbag. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washington, Abby Barmore joining us as well for the mailbag. But before we get to that, Husker Online Show again brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. They are there to help you with the loved ones that you don't always have the time to get things done for. It could be as simple as picking up prescriptions, grocery shopping, cooking, laundry. StayHome.Care is there to help you take care of the people you love the most. And then we're also brought to you by HelloFresh. Cooking is never fun, especially when you have to get all the things you need to cook. Well, HelloFresh makes it so easy to cook at home. They send you ready to roll meals where all the ingredients, all the spices, all the fresh vegetables and meats are ready to cook and use. And try them out. We've got a great special to take advantage of. They have so many different options you can try every week, 30 or 40 different choices, and they're going to give you free breakfast for life as well at HelloFresh. Simply use the promo code FREEHUSKER, and they're going to give you free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com. It's America's #1 meal kit. Use that promo code FREEHUSKER at HelloFresh.com. Thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring us on the Husker Online Show. Okay, Abby Barmore, where are we starting off?
Outside of Dylan Raiola, which 3 Huskers need to have huge games this Saturday for Nebraska to win?
The offensive line as a collective unit is probably where I would start.
I'll say Lutovsky.
Because they have to be able to protect him and run the ball.
Lutovsky.
Yeah. So if you're going to pick one guy on that line, I'm going to pick the guy that's replacing arguably the best player on that offensive line.
Yeah, you don't want a big drop off.
Yeah. So like he's got to be able to hold his own, and then give them that interior push that made them so successful in the first few games.
Lutovsky should be able to do it. We've all 3 met him. He's a mountain. He's one of their bigger linemen. He's 6'6", 320, and he's all of 6'6", 320. He's got the biggest hands of a human I've ever seen. He should be able to move people. So you're asking for 3 people.
Yep.
Nayor's one of them. Nayor's got to make some plays downfield. That would really help. Pick a running back. I'll go Dowdell. Dowdell's got to hammer away. He's got to.
He only had 6 carries last game.
Right. I mean, I'm not suggesting he needs to get 20 carries, but if he gets 12, you really got to make them count. I mean, throw some serious body blows early.
Set the tone.
Right?
I mean, they seem to be just dead set on this equal distribution plan at running back.
Well, 3 now. It's down to 3 though. Equal distribution between Ramir Johnson, Dowdell, and Emmett Johnson. And as we established earlier, there's some confusion because there's 2 Johnsons. I do like Dowdell is early and Emmett Johnson late. And then mix Ramir in there on 3rd downs. He can run the ball too on early downs, but it just seems like Dowdell early, Emmett Johnson late makes a lot of sense.
All right, next question.
So what about a defensive guy? Is there someone on the defense that needs to have a huge game as well?
There is.
Or are we just going to pick the defensive line?
I think you just go to the best player, Ty. Yeah, make your presence felt. Start it.
No one disrupts games more than he does.
Yep.
He's the guy where it starts. He can ruin the entire plan for Illinois if they can't block him.
I mean, they need to force more than 1 turnover. Last week, just 1 forced turnover.
1 forced turnover.
You'd like to see that at least 2 this week.
Yep. Nebraska's +3 through 3 games, which is a huge improvement.
Which is like a world improving stat.
It's a world improvement, but if the perspective is Illinois, as we mentioned before, 9 turnovers forced by Illinois. It's a huge stat in this game. They have forced 9 turnovers and turned it over only once. +8. That is something to watch in this game. You can't Illinois, if it comes in here and is +3, be really tough to beat them.
Yep. The cornerbacks are going to take a lot of that.
Right. Because Bielema, what he's going to do is try to get this game to the 4th quarter. That's what Bielema does. He's going to try to get it to 4th quarter with a chance to win it. Then it gets scary if they're in that position.
All right, next question.
Which game on Nebraska's schedule in the Big Ten is the most important to win?
I think, this one, take out this one, because I think we'd all say this one. But I do think the Purdue game on the road is really big.
Over Indiana?
Well, after what Notre Dame did, just to go on the road and get road win number 1 would be huge. It is homecoming weekend, so there still is expected to be a big crowd in West Lafayette. Now, will they get up and go to the game is a better question.
Yeah, Purdue's not the most challenging opponent on the schedule, but the fact that it is the first road game. I mean, it's the first time they haven't had the luxury of playing in front of this excellent Memorial Stadium crowd. How do they respond to that? How does Dylan respond to being on the road? Even if it is in a sleepy West Lafayette gray sky afternoon, it's going to be the first for him. And again, this is with the young quarterback. You want to see the steady evolution. This will be the next test for him.
Okay. You got one, Sip?
I mean, it's hard for me not to say Indiana right now. I mean, that everybody talks about the 7-0. Indiana right now is playing really well.
And that might be a big noon kickoff game.
Yeah. Yes.
At 11 a.m.
Think about that. Yeah, it's hard for me not to say Indiana.
And then Ohio State, probably a big noon kickoff game is what I've heard. Wow. So you might have 2 11 a.m. back-to-back big noon kickoffs, which is a big win for our post-game show.
Yes,
no doubt.
It is a big win. These night games are rough.
That's what matters.
All right, next question.
What is the most important factor that Nebraska needs to focus on this weekend?
These are like deep thinking.
Ball security. We just talked about how Illinois changes games with their turnovers, and you got a freshman quarterback playing the best defense he's faced this season. So
that's it.
Early down success on defense.
Winning
schedule. Early down on defense. Okay. Too. That was a problem last week. They were not winning early downs.
Good one.
Okay. I think those are 1 and 2, and I think Rob's got 1. Illinois, 9 turnovers forced. And you know what? Illinois, it's an interesting conversation because Illinois in the past was all man. They're man to man all the time.
Ryan Walters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now they're not, as you pointed out that Rhule said. Now they change it up. And it is going to be challenging for Dylan. But I guarantee you Dylan was studying it Sunday.
Yeah, like basically probably 10 minutes after he got off the podium following the Northern Iowa win, he was in his lab breaking down film of the game and getting a head start in Illinois.
But you're right. It'll test him. It's going to test him.
What do you got next, Abby?
Okay. Who are Illinois' key players that Nebraska needs to limit?
Pat Bryant is the one that comes to mind for me first. He's the big receiver. He's a good receiver. He had 43 catches last year. He's off to a great start this year. He's got 15 catches through 3 games, okay? Big, strong outside receiver. Pat Bryant is the guy that concerns me right off the bat.
Well, I think Luke Altmaier, their quarterback, I mean, just everything that they put on him too. He is, if he's hot and converting third downs and getting third downs by run, I do think that is a notable thing. They have a really good offensive tackle, Melvin Presley. That will be a matchup to watch because he'll probably be on Ty Robinson, but he's graded as an 85.8 on Pro Football Focus with an 89.1 run block rate.
Yeah, that's good.
Really good lineman.
Yeah, and they got tacklers all over the field too.
Real good safety.
Matthew Bailey leads them with 17 tackles. So I mean, they just got a lot of just good athletic ball hawk guys on that defensive side of the ball.
Miles Scott in the secondary is another name to watch for them. But all right, Abby, final question here.
So Nebraska's 400 sellout streak continues. Number 400 is on Saturday. So what is your favorite memory from the sellout streak?
Just that it continued, and even with the COVID year and all the setbacks and the losing on the field, it is really remarkable that we've gotten to this day because there have been a lot of things that have happened with the play on the field, with what's happened in the world, and just the way people don't go to games in general anymore. You see a lot of empty seats in stadiums everywhere. And for the smallest Power 5 state or Power 4 along with West Virginia to keep doing what they're doing, it really is remarkable. And, I appreciate it even more when I get home and I look at Facebook and I see the number of people I know that go to these games with their family and their friends. It truly is a family reunion every single Saturday that brings people together that otherwise maybe wouldn't even get to see each other. But this team brings this state together for every single Saturday.
Favorite memory? Probably when Billy Sims dropped it on the 2. And I think that was 76. And I was at the game with my dad. I mean, I want to go to a game where I wasn't covering it. And that those are few and far between.
Were you at 94 Colorado?
I was not covering it.
I was in the stands for that one. That was a special day.
It was a special day. It was ungodly loud. I mean, it was an 11 a.m. kickoff.
ABC.
But it was big. But I'm going when Billy Sims, the Oklahoma running back, dropped it on the 2. It was a gray day. We were sitting under the underhang. I think it was misting a little bit, so it didn't matter to me. Although I've been told since then it wasn't misting. I swear to God it was misting. But somebody told me, no, Sip, it wasn't misting. It was just gray. Anyway, go ahead, Rob.
I'm with Sean and just the way that it's sustained
I need a memory,
all of these low times. Like that is like the overwhelming thought. Like when I think back, I mean, obviously I've only been part of a handful of these, but the fact that we've been through such lows recently with this program and the fans still show up, that I think embodies everything that this record is all about. But for a game, 1994 against Wyoming, it was my very first experience inside Memorial Stadium because I was born in Iowa, spent my first few years of life there, moved here in the early 90s. And the first game I went to was the Wyoming Cowboys when they came in against Nebraska. Brooke Behringer was a starting quarterback. He had a collapsed lung in that game and just gutted it out to help them win a close game. Yeah. And I sat and we got our tickets through the Wyoming because my dad's from Wyoming, so we had connections there. And we sat in the Wyoming section. There was like these old Wyoming rancher dudes with trench coats and cowboy hats smoking cigars in front of us.
What a memory.
Just forever ingrained in my memory. And that was my first taste of the old gray lady.
01.
That's beautiful.
Hey, 01 Nebraska, Oklahoma is up there for you too. I mean,
good one.
The Crouch play.
Yeah.
I mean, the 01 season in general, you had Notre Dame come to Lincoln and Oklahoma, both college game day games.
Hold on. I'd like to amend my answer. The Crouch reception, Black Flash 41. Is that what they called it?
Yeah, 41.
Black Flash.
We're gonna get killed
People
for not knowing this.
Black Flash reverse. 41 Black Flash reverse.
Black Flash 41 reverse is what I think it is.
Black 41 Flash reverse.
Black
got
41.
all the words, just got to get the order.
Black
Hey,
41
listen, that was an
reverse.
incredible moment. It was. It was either the Sims fumble at the 2 or that. That was an incredible moment. It was.
That play, so
God almighty, it was loud.
You know how when you see on Sports Center now, they always have a little box of the player talk, kind of like our show. Then it shows the play. That was the first time ESPN ever did that. They came up with the concept. Let's just pop up the Mike Stunts, Eric Crouch box in the corner while the play's happening with them talking about how it all developed. So like Sports Center, that's how they decided to do it, was that play.
Nice.
To have those players talking. It was a 1-versus-2 type game.
Nice.
In the BCS pullback then. Massive stage.
So that was a pitch. How did it go? It was
Thunder Collins came around.
Took a toss, flipped it to Stunts. Stunts rolls to his
and
left.
He was a lefty.
Hits Crouch down the sideline in stride. Touchdown.
Crouch had to catch it. That's the thing. He had to catch that
athlete.
Ball. Yeah.
And Stunts was a quarterback recruit. People forget that. I mean, I saw Stunts. He's an eye doctor.
Yes, he's an eye doctor in Omaha. It was a huge win for Frank. It was a gigantic win. Wow.
All right. When we come back,
what a memory.
We'll close the show with some Big Ten football. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. Final segment of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. Again, we're brought to you by StayHome.Care. They are there for those you love most. Sometimes you don't have time to help out a family member or a loved one, whether it's as simple as picking up prescriptions, grocery shopping, cooking, cleaning. StayHome.Care is there for you. They are there to help provide you that service. For more, check them out at StayHome.Care or give them a call at 402-205-2233. Also, Stephen M. Sipple, we're brought to you by who?
Well, the glasses are on. That's usually a signal that it's Larson Motors time. Larson Motors. If you're looking for a new vehicle, and this is a great time of year to look for a new vehicle, why not go for a new experience at Larson Motors in Nebraska City, 45 minutes down Highway 2. Larson Motors is one of the Midwest's only dealerships with all the major brands in one location. So finding your new Chevrolet, GMC, Chrysler, Ford, Hummer, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram never has been easier. Start your new experience today at LarsonMotorGroup.com. That's LarsonMotorGroup.com or at Larson Motors in Nebraska City, 45 minutes from Lincoln. Close enough to wherever you are. Larson Motors, real people,
real deals.
All right, a lot of games in the Big Ten last week. I just want to go over the significant games of interest. Alabama hammered Wisconsin 42-10 in Camp Randall. It could have been much worse. Wisconsin has also lost their quarterback, Van Dyke.
Came out in crutches in the second half
and does not look good. That situation there is worth monitoring. Notre Dame goes into West Lafayette.
Wow.
Hammers Purdue. So your big noon kickoff game and your CBS window, two prime Big Ten real estate pieces. The Big Ten teams get boat raced 66-7. Minnesota 27-0 win over Nevada. Oregon gets a really impressive win in Corvallis, 49-14 over Oregon State. Washington State on a neutral field in Seattle beats Washington 24-19. That's the first loss of the year for the Huskies.
Washington, Sean, had won 20 regular season games in a row. Washington had won 20 regular season games in a row.
Different team, though. A lot of attrition there. Then Iowa was down at halftime. The Boo Birds were out in Iowa City. They came back and won 38-21, and we all talked about that spread of 20 points was a huge number, and Iowa wins by 17 under that 20-point number. Then how about this? Indiana goes into the Rose Bowl and welcomes UCLA to the Big Ten with a 42-13 whooping as Google me Spagnetti.
Good job.
Signetti. I'm going to
Kurt Signetti, Sean.
I like to say spaghetti.
Coach Spaghetti.
Kurt Signetti, Sean.
Kurt Signetti.
Yes.
42-13. And then Maryland gets a nice win on the road at Virginia. But, okay, I don't know where I want to hit on, but Alabama-Wisconsin one is very notable because ESPN and their bowl projections now does not have Wisconsin going to a bowl game.
This was a classic Corey Raymond game. Corey Raymond, the former Nebraska cornerbacks coach, after Nebraska lost to South Carolina, the famous quote that we
Citrus Bowl.
We hearken back to a lot, Citrus Bowl. What happened, Corey, to Nebraska in this game? Look at them, look at us. Man, you turn on that game, look at Alabama, look at Wisconsin. Not the same. And it's interesting. Just hear me out on this. I said before the game, Alabama would cover easily. That was only going by it was informative in my own brain. That was only going by what I saw from Wisconsin. I hadn't seen Alabama. I just knew they're going to be a lot better because it's Alabama.
I think in our picks, I was the only one that had Wisconsin covering. I still had it a lopsided loss, but I thought it was going to be one of those games where Wisconsin just does usual Wisconsin things, mucks it up, and keeps it at least somewhat competitive. But I think what that game showed was this was not the Wisconsin.
They don't play that style anymore.
This is
though.
so
They're air raid.
all these like preconceived thoughts you have about what Wisconsin football is no longer the case.
Wipe them out. It's like
they are
Nebraska.
A different team, and
they're 0-4 Nebraska.
I'm very curious to see where this new direction is going to take them, because right now it's looking a little dicey.
Well, they don't. You know what they don't have? They don't have a Braylon Allen. They don't have name me some other great running backs. Ron Dane. They don't have that big
White.
Yeah,
JJ White or what?
Yeah,
no.
Jamel White. I think it was
Jamel White.
God dang it, Sean
So
White. Why
James White?
James White.
I said JJ White.
Thank
James
you.
White.
Anyway, they don't have the big, powerful, good running back. They don't have receivers that get
Will
separation.
Pauling's probably their best player on offense. The receiver.
Yeah, he's a pretty good slot guy. They don't have the big time receiver. Quintez Cephas was pretty good by Wisconsin standards. They don't have anything like Quintez Cephas. So they're and then the Purdue game that's embarrassing. I mean, Notre Dame had just lost to Northern Illinois. And then Notre Dame goes into Purdue and scores 66, which Purdue has never allowed 66.
And Purdue had 50 recruits there.
Purdue had never allowed 66 points at home. I'm not sure they allowed 66 points, period, but not at home. They had how many recruits there?
Like over 50.
That's a disaster. That is an absolute
42-0
disaster.
at halftime.
The only thing you can do as a coach in that situation is sell to the recruits. We need help.
But
we need
Purdue probably went in that game thinking they could win.
Probably.
I mean, they should have. I mean, all right. I need to get into this week's games because we have
Sean.
a lot. Rutgers, Virginia Tech. That is definitely one worth watching.
Huge game.
Virginia Tech is favored by 3.5 in Blacksburg. Then you get a helmet game on CBS. USC, Michigan.
Oh my God.
Michigan has made a starting quarterback change.
They did?
Yes.
Davis Warren out. They went to Orgy.
Orgy will start.
Wow.
Against USC.
Well, they're going to run him.
The Trojans are favored by 6 points.
Yeah, I bet they are. Wow.
Washington favored by 10.5 over Northwestern. UCLA goes to LSU. 23-point line. That could get ugly.
Thumpity thump. Yep. That will.
A couple other really interesting, 3 other interesting games. Iowa at Minnesota. Iowa 3-point favorite in Minneapolis.
Minnesota 2 straight shutouts. Now think about that for a second. Minnesota hasn't had 2 straight shutouts since 1962.
Are you picking Minnesota?
Minnesota hasn't had 2 shutouts since 62. That was a Rose Bowl team
against Rhode Island and Nevada.
Well, but still,
damn near shutouts.
Hey, Michigan State goes to Boston College.
Huge
6.5-point spread for Boston College, and then Purdue goes to Oregon State. 6-point spread. So it is a really good set of games, a great set of games to cover a game on a Friday.
Oh,
agreed.
Forgot about that.
Agreed. That's the benefit.
Yeah.
I'm very curious. I mean, the USC Michigan game is the highlight by far, but that Rutgers game, like, is Rutgers the team everybody thinks that they are and can be? Because I remember going into the year, like, it's like Rutgers could be undefeated when they play Nebraska. Well, they got to win this one first, and right now they're underdogs, so they have to go on the road and win as an underdog to take that step and get into that level of conversation where they might be one of the toughest teams on Nebraska's first half of the schedule.
Oh, I think it qualifies as must-see TV if you're a Nebraska fan. It really does. I think Rutgers will win the game.
They're calling it for a 26-22 game.
Yeah.
That's like the way the spread sets up. They're expecting like 26-23, 27-24, like a game like that. And Rutgers will hammer it. They'll run it.
I watched Virginia Tech against Vandy. I watched the replay. Don't ask me why. Vandy won the game. Vandy just lost to Georgia State. I like Rutgers in this game. I think they'll hammer away it.
I'd pick Rutgers.
Okay.
And now Maryland also plays an FCS opponent worth noting. I believe Villanova is highly ranked.
It's a good basketball game, Sean.
But no, I'll be interested if Maryland makes quick work of Villanova or if they get their hands full from a good FCS team.
You think Villanova's good? They're good.
I think they're ranked.
Okay.
I think
you might be right. I'm not saying
3-0. They beat Youngstown
in the top 10.
I wonder how Villanova compares to
Dakotas.
Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa was only 21st, right?
Yeah, they went up in the rankings.
I thought they were pretty good.
I did too.
I did.
They're better than UTEP.
Yeah, they're better than UTEP. I would say that.
Yeah, the FCS coaches poll has Villanova at number 5.
Number 5.
Right below Idaho. So that is kind of a sneaky flip the channel 2 game.
Yeah.
So we'll keep your eyes on that.
Okay.
And we don't know, by the way, for the Purdue game. We're going to find out after this weekend's game.
Okay.
It's 11 a.m. Sounds like Peacock, but not official yet.
Oh, really? Peacock.
Yeah.
That'll test the 50.
Purdue losing by 60 probably could drop that a few pegs down the priority list for the networks.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We'll be on Husker Online postgame live following Nebraska, Illinois on Friday night. Probably around midnight is what we'll shoot for as far as the postgame shows. For Steve Sipple, Robin Washut, I'm Sean Callahan.